Welcome back to Hardball. That huge decision by Arlen Specter today to become a Democrat and join the Democratic caucus, bringing them up to 60 votes in the Senate, which is now filibuster-proof, is the latest blow for the Republican Party. Our new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll out tonight has more bad news for the Republicans because it's overflowing with good news for President Obama. Chuck Todd is NBC's political director and also chief White House correspondent for NBC News. And Chris Cillizza writes The Fix for the WashingtonPost.com. He broke the Specter story today, so we've got to go to you, Chris. How'd you get it?
Good reporting. You know, Chris, people tell you things about races, and you confirm it as quickly as you can. I'll be honest with you. I was stunned when I first heard about it. I mean, I know that there had been ongoing conversations, but I had never assumed. Arlen Specter had said repeatedly that he thought he would run as a Republican. Any basic analysis would show that was going to be a very hard race for him to win in a primary, but and Chris, you're more of a student of Pennsylvania than I am. Yeah. Arlen Specter's proven time and time again that he proves conventional wisdom wrong. So I was always a little bit loath to write him off, but clearly he had made the calculation that he's just simply could not win.
Yeah, you and I were more optimistic about his chances than he is, apparently. But everything I'm getting today on the phone this afternoon, calling everybody I know up there all over the place, is that he really thought he had it lost. He was going to lose. There's just a fact he only had two options: run as an independent, which is almost impossible in Pennsylvania, right, or run as a Democrat. Those are the options he had, because Pennsylvania has a sore loser law. You can't lose a primary like Lieberman did and then run in a general as an independent. You're not allowed to. So he had to make his decision right now. Chuck Todd, your sense of this? I think it's a statement about the weakness of the Republican Party. It was a good vehicle for Arlen for 40-some years. It's not a good vehicle anymore. It's like throwing an old bicycle to the side of the road. It doesn't work anymore for him. He's got a new bike to ride. It's called the Democratic Party. Fair enough. He's the middle of the roader. He's chosen a better vehicle from his point of view.
Well, that's right. Look, this was it was a crass decision, and to Arlen Specter's credit, he's admitting why he's made this decision. He still wants to stay a senator, and this was the most expedient way to do it. Okay, switch parties. Go raise that money out of Philadelphia. Imagine all that Philadelphia money that's going to show up in his, used to always quietly, you had those Philadelphia money people in the Democratic Party quietly figure out how can they get money to Specter. How can Ed Rendell sort of tacitly figure out how to show that he is supporting Specter without showing that he's supporting Specter? None of that. All of that's gone. Money will rush in. That won't be an issue, and they'll drown everybody else out. But I think this is a terrible story for the Republican Party. Okay, is it true that Arlen Specter is more moderate than the average Republican? Yes. But can the Republican Party be in the majority again without finding people that can win Senate seats and hold Senate seats in the Northeast? Chris, look at the map from 2008. Look at the map. It is blue from Maine, and you just pour that blue paint. It pours halfway down the Atlantic coast now through North Carolina. It went all the way across the Rust Belt from the Northeast there in Pennsylvania, which hovers between the Northeast and the Rust Belt, all the way through the Midwest. This is a devastating map now, and all Arlen Specter does was sort of admit where, put his finger in the wind and said, whoop. This is where Pennsylvania is. It is not a 50-50 state. It is in his mind, it is a state where it's a 55-45 Democratic state. And the other important thing, the Republican Party primary, folks, it has become narrow-casted, and the activists are too conservative for the middle. And when is that going to come crashing into each other? Specter tried to deal with this a little bit. Talked about the Club for Growth guys, right? This could become a big problem in the Republican presidential primary all over the place.
You know what I'm watching, guys, in addition to what you're talking about? I'm watching the moderation of Barack Obama. I want to get to the polls right now, but I've watched him do a couple of things in the last 2 weeks. He talks now about affordable national health care. Not free, there's going to be a big copay. Affordable is a hell of a lot different than free. And secondly, he walked away from that assault rifle ban the other day. He does not want to kiss Pennsylvania goodbye. So at the same time, Arlen's jumping ship and joining the Democratic Party. The president is being very careful to make the Democratic Party acceptable to the center and the center-right. He doesn't want to start any new fights. Anyway, the new NBC poll out tonight. Half of the voters like the president and his policies. But catch this. Another 30% on top of the half of the voters who like him, don't like his policies, but like him personally. Only 12% of the country say they don't like this president. Chuck Todd, this is, talk about Pennsylvania politics. This is back into Eisenhower country, Reagan country, where you have a very popular person in the White House.
And what it does is it allows him to paper over tough political decisions. Everything about Obama in our poll is more popular personally for him than some of his policies, whether it's the stimulus package, whether it's his health care plan, whether it's his potential energy proposal. None of it is as popular as he is. He is his own best political weapon, and he's this one-person sort of optimism machine. He's able to look at all the negative headlines we've had, Chris, right? Between the economy, GM, shoot, now we've got swine flu. There's no reason to feel good about where the country is going on one hand. On the other hand, simply because of Barack Obama, the country feels better, and they're telling us they feel like the country's headed in the right direction, even as everything seems to be getting worse. Unemployment goes up, not down, and it's all him. He is
okay. Let me offer you a middle
right
case. I agree with everything you've reported there, but there's another piece to this. Sure, the economic conditions are still headed downward in the whole, but the government is moving. We have a government now that's activist. Every day it looks like it's doing something for the people. It's moving around on expanding the money supply, on fiscal stimulus, on recapitalizing the banks, on the toxic assets. Everything is moving, even on the auto industry. You see a lot of, I think the public likes the movement. They like the concern of this president's vigilance. Your thoughts, Chris Cillizza? I don't think it's a question of just cosmetics versus reality. I think in the middle, they see the government in a way they hadn't seen it a few months ago. Chris Cillizza.
You know, Chris, I would just call it the metabolism. I think the American public likes President Obama's metabolism. They feel like, now we know that action or movement does not necessarily equal progress, but when you have an economic crisis the size of which we are facing, when you have people worried every single day about how are they gonna keep their jobs? What does the future hold? Can they send their kid to college? Can they pay for prescription drugs? Having someone who is at the top of the country, leading the country out, doing things actively, even if they don't necessarily agree with what each of those things are, is tremendously reassuring. It goes back to Chuck's point. I think Barack Obama has done a very good job of using his personal popularity to leverage popularity and confidence on other things. He comes out and says, we can do this on the economy. My proposals will do this. Even people who feel a little bit shaky about his proposals say, I do like the guy. He seems like he's doing everything that he can. Let's try it. Now, does that all come home to roost at some point, especially on the spending front? Or if the economy doesn't get better, possibly. But in the first 100 days, certainly, you got to give Obama credit for using that personal popularity to push what could be, if he wasn't as popular, a somewhat controversial agenda.
Okay, Chuck, isn't politics great, Chuck Todd? Isn't it phenomenal?
It's unbelievable.
Isn't it unpredictable? I love
fun.
anybody. There's no such thing as political science. It's an art, and it's unpredictable. Chris Cillizza, too. Thank you both, gentlemen. Up next.